Hello again, I'm back, and this time to discuss something actually current. I know, it's weird for me too, I even pushed back an episode about Jason Todd for this. As always, thanks to my wonderful patrons for making this possible. Now, as this is an ongoing series, I'm gonna have to give an overall spoiler warning for this episode. Sorry folks. So now for those who don't mind spoilers, I'm just gonna do a quick summary. DC vs. Vampires is an ongoing serial involving DC's vampire population coming under secretive new leadership and beginning to wage a secret war for control of Earth. They've secretly been turning villains, civilians, and even heroes to act as their agents in the coming war. Hal Jordan is one of them and recently turned Wonder Woman. Meanwhile, the most informed and aware of the threat are Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Red Arrow, along with the Bat Clan. The latter of whom got brought in thanks to the heroic vampire named Andrew Bennett, leaving a letter and a sample of Luthor's seemingly vampire-killing blood with them, but only Bruce and Alfred know about the blood. Also, Hal Jordan has killed one of the Wonder Twins, Andrew, and Flash, and along with the others is working through groups like magic users and psychics in secret. Now, what do I like? Well, a lot actually. For one, this is just a neat concept. It has a very different feel to the DCeased or Marvel Zombies, but the overall idea of a secret war with vampire converts who act strategically is neat and is being quite well executed for the setting thus far. The art is also very solid, no complaints there, and whoever is the new Master Vampire, they seem potentially interesting. They downplay the whole Master thing, clearly being very canny but also snappy with their followers, which if utilised right can make for a very interesting villain. Hal is a delightfully malevolent villain, and the vampire's plan is overall very clever, makes sense but has room for error, mistakes and fumbles, which keeps it feeling fairly grounded. I also appreciate that the Arrow fam, as some call them, seem to have been ahead of the curve on this one, and seeing the comic utilise figures like the Wonder Twins. I enjoy seeing the mistaken presumption that the vampires will go for younger, less well-established heroes first when they've already claimed Green Lantern. Every other deduction was right, and this one made sense. It was a logical assumption to make, but not a certainty, and you know what they say about assuming. I appreciate the detail that even on his deathbed, Lex's ego still demands that he ensure people know that he might be the one who saved the world. It's a crystal clear conveyance of why he'll never be a hero. Also, the first comic having a narration that turns out to be a letter he left with Alfred was a clever writing device. Plus, Cass is here and looking cool. I love it! Now, with all those positives, what could I possibly have to dislike? Well, something. Some are very me things, others might shift as the story develops, so nothing is set in stone, but as of now, some of my issues include lack of Steph in general, because of course I'm going to complain about that, and also not bringing Duke in feels like a huge missed opportunity. His powers alone make him super fitting for this story. We have seen a clip of him, but that's it so far. I mentioned liking the use of the Wonder Twins, but Zan was just brutally killed, and so far Jane has been mostly used in a sort of weeping woman role, rather than being a dynamic and active character in her own right. That could change, but right now it feels like a waste. I think it would have made more sense for her to be the one who discovered her brother's remains in the sewers, which could add to the multi-pronged story aspect. Another aspect I rather like, or at least they should have had her be the one who called Bruce in to help her look, because he's a detective, over her just sort of being there and then leaving. Lex refusing to become a vampire works perfectly fine for me, but the fact that they couldn't hypnotize him and turn him the way Wonder Woman was does kind of concern me. I'm hoping that they just didn't deem him worth the effort. Because if they go down the route of it being like, oh, his mind and will are so much greater than hers, then yeah, I'm going to be annoyed. But I have no idea if that's what they're going to do, so yeah, it's sort of up in the air. Other Lex-related stuff is the fact he apparently had a needle on him and has made his blood borderline magic as it kills vampires, which, yeah, that feels kind of contrived at time of writing. Also, why does Lex know Batman's identity, and did he need to know it for Andrew to swing by Bruce's place with the blood? Like, why couldn't Andrew just know it? This might be explained later, but why are Ollie, Roy, and Dinah operating out of some dinky little place in the middle of nowhere and also keeping all of this to themselves? I like that they figured out what was going on and are being cautious, but little about how they're conducting themselves after that seems to make much sense to me, and we don't get enough time with them to figure anything out. I think a flashback showing how and why they got to this point would have done wonders, and admittedly been even smoother than the letter to Batman idea. Which, yeah, okay, I guess there's no dancing around it. Despite liking aspects of how the Bat Clan have been involved and arguing for more, I actually think making Batman a central figure in this story doesn't work. One could argue that it's a detective story, but honestly it feels more in line with how a lot of the movies or some of the crises just have everything start revolving around Batman, even if it strains the story to do so. Not helped by how casually they all go straight to killing vampires with mental gymnastics like they're already dead. Hey Jason, how about you have the Joker be turned into a vampire, then your dad will kill him? Now I will say some of this could be explained and be fine or be made work down the line, it's just at the moment it is kind of bothering. For example, Bruce not trusting the League or even his own clan with the knowledge of vampires or Luthor's blood respectively, it could well blow up in everyone's face and put a tragic bow on this whole affair with a sort of, I could have presented this if only I'd trusted more and weren't so controlling. Which, given the kind of bloodshed we've seen so far, I can believe we're veering towards a bad end or at least a very brutal one. However, despite thinking that would work and serve as organic drama caused by characters given to act that way, I struggle to see it happening given Batman rarely if ever is actually called out on this stuff and usually instead is rewarded for it. As it is, part of me is thinking the story would benefit from the Arrow fan being central in terms of the we know about vampire figures, as they seem to have figured it out on their own rather than it being handed to them via a herald who then went to the JLA anyway, which could make for a more dynamic story or flashback than just got a letter. Also, I take issue with Babs Girl over Oracle, but what else is new? Whatever the case, as noted, I could easily see some or a lot of these issues being resolved as the story progresses and reveals more. Thus, I intend to keep up with this comic. As always, if you'd like to help out with these videos, please feel free to swing by my Patreon or my Ko-fi. There you can do stuff like get early previews of my work or commission 3D models. Thanks for stopping by.